starting an executive session, right?
No.
Now you really can't.
Oh, okay.
Ready?
We'll go there.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order and welcome you to the Hampton-Wilbraham Regional School District School Committee meeting. It is 6:30 p.m. I see that David Sanders from Wilbraham Public Access Channel is recording. Is there anyone else here recording this meeting? We will do roll call in alphabetical order. Bill Bontempi. Cheryl Caruana. Here. Sean Kennedy.
Here.
Patrick Kiernan.
Present.
Lisa Murray. Here. Maura Ryan. Here. Michelle Boudreau. Aye. Here. If you would please stand. Lisa will lead us in the pledge of allegiance. Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do have the need for executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, 1, to discuss reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health, rather than professional competence of an individual, or to discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual.
I make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Okay, so we will do roll call vote. Cheryl? Aye. Sean?
Aye.
Patrick?
Aye.
Lisa? Aye. Maura?
Aye.
And myself, aye. We are now moving to executive session at 6:30. Okay, so we will continue with our student representatives. We have Molly Brewer and Mackenzie Blair here again with us tonight. Thanks for being here. And as always, you're welcome to stay for the entire meeting.
Okay, so to start, today we had one of our mini chogs. We also had a mini chog last Tuesday. I believe I mentioned these mini chogs last week. They were for first graders this week. We did a lot of arts and crafts regarding Halloween, just trying to get them in the Halloween spirit. We did like a lot of ghost arts and crafts, a lot of coloring pages. We find a lot of the little kids really enjoy these activities. We also did a lot of like physical activities in the gym. We played fishy fishy, duck duck goose, things like that, spending a lot of their energy in the gym today. Just trying to get them as active as possible and get them in Halloween spirit.
Key Club just had their trunk or treat. I'm not a member of Key Club, but from hearing from my friends, they had a good time. A lot of people dressed up. Kids enjoyed it, I guess. So I believe we talked about it last week, but just following up again.
We also have flag football, which is still continuing. When we talked about this last time, it was just that rosters had been posted. Now we have the cheerleaders starting to practice their routines, and we also have teams starting to get together, have team meetings and practices, all trying to prepare for the game.
Again, mentioning NHS inductions are happening November 16th. All the members who will be joining obviously got their acceptance, so we're getting excited for that.
The class of 2025 is trying to approve a new fundraiser. This fundraiser would be a kids movie night. Ideally, they want it in December. It would be like a cozy kind of fundraiser. They'd have popcorn, watch some movies, and just kind of be like a kids night in at the school.
ATI hygiene drive is still going. I'm not really sure how long it's going, but it seems like it's pretty encompassing. They've got a lot of stuff out front, so it's definitely effective, their advertising.
We also have our half day coming up on Monday, which happens to land on Halloween. So we also we encourage most kids to wear their Halloween costumes that day. So hopefully we'll see lots of Halloween costumes and variety that day.
French Club is having a dine out. That's Wednesday, November 16th at Uno's. So they're kind of competing with NHS inductions, but I'll let it slide. Maybe they're funding Fondue Friday. I'm not sure, but it's exciting for them.
NHS also has their Festival of Trees fundraiser, so they definitely need donations for that. Yes.
Taking donations for the Mayflower Marathon, which is they're taking non-perishable foods.
Yeah, it's
Do you know who's running that?
I do not know, I just believe that that's just like a school-wide fundraiser that we are promoting. Where they're just doing a non-perishable food drive for donations. We also have the Music Association fundraiser, which is a fresh fruits fundraiser, so they'll have sales going on all throughout, up until November 13th. So, yeah.
Oh, I'm also selling butter braids, so if you want 40 Anjou pears, I've got you.
I'll meet you after the meeting, if you stay late.
All right,
No, everybody's
I've
so
got you
nice.
covered. Oh, one more thing is there's that I don't remember the exact name, but it's for they do that Ryan Doyle 5K, which is coming up. I'm not sure the exact date, but it's like posted around the school. So
The Run for Ryan.
yeah, that everything.
Yeah, I believe that's all.
Thank you.
You guys gonna be sticking around?
Tonight, yeah, I will.
I'll be here for a little while.
Nice.
They separated us.
Excellent.
Thank you very much. We are going to continue with the Hamden Wilbraham Partners for Youth Coalition update. So we have Gina and Brianna.
Really quick.
Don't we want it to go down, not up?
Oh, is that how it goes on? I thought I would hear. It's just not working. Thank you. I thought this happened and you do this and it worked when
It kind of goes up on its own.
very exciting.
We have lights that turn off, that don't turn off. We have screens that,
Yes.
Motion for consent agenda.
second.
Right. Any comments, questions, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, it's been approved. Thank you.
We're going to come up to the front, I think, right?
Yep.
Okay,
We have a podium.
we have a podium,
Gina, I'll work on this.
and we're going to have a presentation in just a moment. And Maria and I are going to share the honors tonight. Thank you so much for your kind invitation to have us be with you tonight. And our goal tonight is to have an opportunity to share an update, a brief update on our Hamden Wilbraham Partners for Youth Coalition, and some of the things that we do and some of the things that we are planning to do. In the process of that, we're going to have an opportunity to see a little bit about some of the data that really drives the intent and the goals of the coalition and the work, and kind of helps us hopefully stay connected to the local conditions that are really essential in coalition work. And then we hope to again share some of our things on the horizon, and we really hope that we have a chance for those that might be listening out there to encourage folks to get involved and to maybe participate in things like youth mental health first aid. So that was the 1 minute version of what you're about to hear. And now we are, nope, almost. We're going to get there. We will begin with our coalition update. But I can start without the slide presentation behind me, because it is the most important thing about coming tonight is to give you an opportunity to meet and put a name with this wonderful face. And this is Bree Burnich, and she is our new, not so new, we're still calling her new, coalition coordinator. And you may remember we worked with Ruth DeCristoforo for a while, and then we had Jenna as a coordinator. We've had some transitions in the coordination of our coalition, and yet through that we've been able to maintain our stability. And each of our coordinators have brought a little bit of their own special magic to the process. But I have to say that none quite with the energy and the impact that in a relatively short amount of time Bree has had. So it is my pleasure to introduce Bree to you. We're going to hear from, you know I have a hard time giving up the microphone, but we are going to hear from Bree shortly. But I do want to say she came to us with a tremendous amount of experience in mental health and in particular working with young people. And so her background was had been more in that clinical piece. She took a brief detour when coming back into this area where she actually worked here at Winnichuk and was a member of the team in the assistant principal's office. And that really has given you a good pulse point, I think, on some of the things that we work very hard on as a coalition. So Bree has brought all of that to us and more. And every day that goes by, I think we see a little bit more in terms of how she is going to continue a lot of outreach. Oh my goodness, social media. She'll tell you about that. Okay, we're still going to go. That was welcome, Bree. We're good. So the more boring part of the presentation, unfortunately we don't have the visual to go with it, but I just really wanted to do a 101 on what is a coalition. I think most of you know this because you have been with us and part of it and very much participatory in a lot of what we've done. But the thing that we've continued to reinforce in the times that I've had a chance to visit you is that coalition work is community work. And as much as we are so fortunate to have Hampden-Wilbraham Regional School District as our fiscal agent and our lead agency and our home base, and we talk to many coalitions really all across the country who say, how do we get into schools? And we have the incredible luck and good fortune to have this very close connection where the population that we want to have the most impact comes every day, and their families. This is really a community crossroads. So we want to keep in mind that true coalition work involves every sector of the community. They divide it into 12. I always have a hard time remembering what the 12 are, but Cheryl, maybe I'll test you on this one. There's no test. But just imagine, we know who they are. They are the parents, they are the students, they are the school personnel, they are local media, they are law enforcement, they are our government officials, they are clergy, they are youth-serving organizations and mental health organizations, and those organizations that specialize in substance misuse, and I probably left out one or two, but it's okay. When the graphic shows up, actually, you don't have it.
They do. They have it.
So you don't even have to worry about it.
So we know the 12.
You know the 12. And the other part of this is the strategic prevention framework. And that involves 5 key points of the way that we do this. And so there are things like assessment and planning and evaluation. And so the efforts of a good coalition, a strong coalition, get interpreted through the strategic prevention framework so that we can attend to the principles of effectiveness that keep coalition work meaningful, hopefully, and help us arrive at our goals. There are 7 key strategies, and so if you have this in front of you, you'll see what those 7 strategies are. And you will see that the first 3 are the easiest because they are the ones that have the most personal contact. The rest of them really have to do with environmental strategies, and those are much harder to achieve. There's things like modifying policies and also, and I'm having trouble reading here, but help me out. Changing consequences. So you'll see, and that's the other reason. So when I started a long time ago, I didn't wear glasses, but so Bree is also truly another set of eyes. We say that expression, but it's literal for us. But the key in that is that while the giving of information and the sort of forward-facing things are important, for coalition work to be really successful, we have to get underneath of that. And the best example of that in action, I think a few years ago, we may have brought this to you as sort of a point of pride, but some of our youth coalition members actually went to the boards of health when there was a concern about the sale of vaping devices in town. And they actually advocated to the point where that policy was impacted. And we, as coalitions, we do not lobby, but we do share information. And so by connecting the dots, hopefully, people will then decide for themselves and in the community what's best for our youth. So with that in mind, and now, not yet, huh? Okay, so you're going to have to bear with us because we're going to talk about the Youth Risk Behavior Survey highlights. And please refer to what's in front of you, and I will do my best to give a sort of verbal tour. But you know this as well, because every January, February, I probably find an excuse to come visit you and say, we are going to be doing that Youth Risk Behavior Survey. Once again, it's typically administered in April. It is administered through the health PE classes for students who have health PE or alternating day PE in the spring term. At the high school, that amounts to about 50% of our high school students. And for survey data, we do have an opt-out option, and so we don't have the entire population, but in general, we have a very robust sample that has been extremely reliable and stable over time. We've been very fortunate with that. The YRBS results really help to inform our health education programs and really give us a sense of maybe some of the efforts that a coalition should be looking at and working on. Every year around this time, we assemble a coalition review team from the coalition, and we try to get in there and really make sure that we're not asking questions that are not relevant to our students or will make them feel like people who really are not in the know that we're in the survey. We really work hard to try to make it relevant, but we love more student input, so you may be hearing from us on that. In your packet, what you will see is something we feel really good about. We talk about lifetime use, we also talk about 30-day use, and again, you've heard me say this before. 30 days is associated with regular use, while lifetime use is experimental or lifetime or regular, could be anything in between. And when you look at those data of how we have, over time, been able to be working on prevention. Coalition is very prevention-oriented, not so much treatment. We do definitely share resources in the community about how to access treatment, but we are prevention-focused. And so we have made some pretty significant inroads in looking at the self-reported rates of alcohol use and tobacco and marijuana. We have, as a coalition, we are to pinpoint 3 substances that we focus on, and those are the 3. We had initially also talked about prescription drugs, but our rates are extremely low there, and so we have mainly focused on the alcohol, the marijuana, and tobacco, which in the 8 years that we've been a coalition has gone from tobacco as we consider traditional cigarettes to now including the vaping devices that have become a lot more common. We also see some good trends in terms of our high school as you look at the lifetime data. But what you will see there as well is that alcohol really does remain the substance that our students would be most likely to get involved with. And again, there's a lot of reasons for that. At any point in time, if you ever want to really take a deeper dive into the data, this is really just a little bit of a skim today to introduce more of the basics. But at any point in time, we'd be really happy to come back and really give our data a lot more attention. We also share a graph on the reported frequency of the use of nicotine vaping products among high school. What's important to remember about this particular chart that's in your packet is that it's alarming, but it only involves the population of students that answer in the yes to lifetime use. So using skip logic, we know that only the percentage that have used are answering this. Of the percentage that have used, and this is something that is significant and needs attention, of the percentage of students that report that they have used, about 60% say that they haven't used in the past 30 days. When you think about that 30-day measure, that's kind of interesting because it tells us that a big chunk of our students are still kind of in that, yeah, sometimes yes, sometimes no. But 40% of those that have used ever are using at a high rate. 20% is, remind me, is of the
Frequent, every day, or almost.
right. So you can see that when you hear about this as being a problem, it's a problem.
How many respondents is it?
I'm sorry, one more time?
How many respondents is it?
So, okay, so it's about half of our populations are typically, that's about 500, and for the high school, are we looking at high school right now?
Yes.
Yeah. So that would be about 500 students. And then the percentage of those that say never used was, do you remember this? I have to go back. It would be, if we have our screen.
There was a high percentage of those who said never use, over 50%.
Yeah, so it looks like it's around 60, but just below.
Yeah.
Right, if you look at that lifetime, it really does, it actually, I believe it says, is the 24, I think it's
Out of
the
the 500,
24%.
how many are they?
Correct.
Yes, yeah.
But how many of the 500 answered yes and then brought them to this question, what I'm asking?
So, I believe, and again, I'm not looking at it closely, but what I believe is about 24% of the 500 answered yes.
Okay.
And of that 24%, then you have 60% of the 24% saying not in the past 30 days, and 40% saying, yeah, a lot. So, you know, one thing that you've heard us, Coalition, talk about is the issue of social norms and the fact that most of our students are making good decisions. It doesn't minimize our concern about the extent and frequency of the students that are actually crossing that line. And when we talk about students using a substance every day, like nicotine, we can draw our own conclusions. That is a serious issue that needs more attention. So, you know, luckily we are at a much lower rate among our middle schoolers, but there is use and there is experimentation there. And that brings us to our core belief that we need to get involved in prevention much earlier. Our interventions really do need to be brought down to that later elementary, maybe even earlier. The skills that we teach that help to inoculate kids from being vulnerable are skills that really begin when they walk through the door. But the more direct issues that they will face as they go through the grades do become a concern, and we need to continue to work on that. One of the ways that we demonstrate how this all kind of comes together is in measuring the attitudes that our students can express through survey. And you know, again, we acknowledge this is survey data, it's not perfect, but it really gives us a very reliable, stable window on those risks that are going on that need our attention. So when we talk about what leads students into these situations where we become concerned, there tend to be three variables, and those are the perception of risk and harm, the perception of parental approval or disapproval, and the perception of peer approval or disapproval. And if you look at the charts, and we really wanted to go kind of quickly here, but if you look at the charts that are in front of you, you're going to see what you would expect, which is that when our 8th graders are asked about what they think, do they feel that their parents would strongly approve, would disapprove, not disapprove, etc. Our 8th graders are much more apt to be looking at parental disapproval than our 12th graders. Similarly, the level of risk assessed. Our younger students are more apt to consider these substances to be riskier, and those perceptions decline over time, as do the peer perceptions. So when we ask, do you think your peers would disapprove? As our students get older, that perception, of course, changes. We understand that that's a very developmental thing as well, as as our children grow, that their peer networks become more important. But this is where it becomes even especially upon us to make sure that those peer norms are accurate, because the majority of their peers are not using. So this is where the idea of the social norms campaign really does take some shape, and we're going to talk to you about that in just a moment. Okay, we want to talk a little bit, let's skip ahead just a bit. We know relationships matter. We know that the mental health issues have always been a major source of concern. And we understand the relationship between mental health and well-being and what might increase the likelihood or decrease the likelihood of substance use. Those things are very much connected. So it's not really separate for a coalition to be concerned and focused on mental health issues. And so we definitely have. But one of these charts, the relationships matter, I think is really relevant. And I see Maria looking at it right now, and Cheryl. It's color-coded, and you can really see the COVID line. So the good news is that when we ask students, do you have an adult at school that you would go to if you have a problem, we are building that back up. And Steve Hill could not be with us tonight, but I met with him earlier this week, and we talked about this presentation. And he can tell you, and will tell you, I can't even count the number of ways in which the Manchog family has embraced this idea of adult connection, positive connection, and the measures that they are taking to really emphasize this. And maybe, again, another source of discussion for a later time. But this is something that our schools take very seriously, and it's a data point that we take very seriously too as a coalition. And Lee's going to tell you something cool that we're planning that's going to help us with that.
So
a couple of slides left in here before.
Gina, can we just go one slide prior? This is alarming. How does that trend on high school students who reported feeling sad or hopeless almost every day for 2 weeks in a row at 40%, 41%? How does that trend against others that have taken it? So do we have an increased case of sad and hopelessness, or is that reflective or representative of all respondents across district, state, schools, et cetera, that have taken this?
So if we look at the national data is what you're asking.
Correct.
Societal line. I think that's a great question. I'm going to tell you what I think, but I can't tell you what I know, because I would really want to go back and make sure. But I absolutely do believe that this is pretty typical in that trend line. And in particular, you see that very sharp peak as we are dealing with the aftermath of how our kids process the COVID world. And so, I don't love the data point 3 years ago much better, but it was significantly lower than it is now. And yes, the mental health and well-being of our students is front and center. You saw it, we went through our strategic plan. It's definitely something that we have increased supports here in many different ways, including stronger partnerships with community-based mental health. So this is something that we are actively looking at and working on. And one thing, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I think it's important, we promote something called Youth Mental Health First Aid for Adults. It's a great course. Really hope we get a lot of people interested in taking it. But there is a relatively new student version of Mental Health First Aid. And Mr. Hale has agreed there aren't a lot of schools out there that are doing this yet because the requirements are pretty strong. It must be delivered to an entire grade level. And he has put things in motion that this will happen for 11th graders this year. So again, teen mental health first aid is a lot about recognizing signs and symptoms and knowing what to do about it and making sure that it's not training people to be therapists, it's training people to know how to connect people with help and support. And we have 2 people here who have taken the course, so you could speak to that. But Patrick, thank you, because that is a point of emphasis and it needs more attention. And again, that could be, we could come here and we could look at and dive much deeper into the mental health pieces. This is really a broad brush, but there's a lot of other things connected to that. And you know, I think we should talk about it more, and we would be absolutely happy to do that. We have a new grant, it's called Stop Act, and we've had it before, but it is new this year. And we will have for the next 4 years, $50,000 a year, and it is focused on underage drinking. And so our goal is, yes, to address the reported rates of underage drinking. And what we saw was that was the substance that seemed to be of highest concern. What I think we want to remember is that attacking underage drinking does not actually supports the concerns that we have about the other substances and mental health. So the strategies that we want to put into place that help us hopefully reduce these numbers are the strategies that increase the protective factors that really do help contribute to stronger mental health and well-being for students. So we use these opportunities as kind of an on-ramp to look at and dive into some of the areas that I think have us all very much concerned. I am going to stop there and let you hear the voice of this wonderful person beside me. We did bring we got some special goodies for you in addition to what was in your packet. And there was also, it doesn't look like we have members of the public with us, but there's more on the table there as well. Thank you. And the pens are over there, so you got a coalition pen?
Yes. So one thing we want to share with you about, with the importance of all the mental health discussions we were having, and just the prevalence of everything going on with students, we are launching a new campaign called our MVP campaign, which stands for Most Valuable Person. And so basically this is just going to be a way for people in the community, parents, students, anyone in the community to nominate another adult that they work with, that works with youth, that they feel really goes above and beyond for the youth in the community. And what the coalition will do is honor that person. We will have a whole page for it on our website. It will be up on the website very soon. We'll be doing social media campaigns, we'll do newspaper ads. So we really just want to highlight people in the community who are really taking part in helping youth and going the extra mile for them. Another thing that we want to share about our website is the traffic we've had. So we've had a lot of increase in social media presence from, just to share some data with you, from February to August. I have these dates from our DFC report. We had a 458% increase in our Facebook traffic, and we reached about 20,000 people from our posts, which is awesome. So we're really trying to share as much information as we can with the community and get messages out there to families and students, and just make all this information very accessible to them. Another thing that we are doing is a monthly newsletter, which our first one started last month in October. So every month we'll have a newsletter that goes out to anyone who would like to sign up for it, and it will highlight different events going on in the community, prevention tips, ways to get involved in the community, etc. So kind of be a one-stop shop for things going on in the community. And then to kind of piggyback off of our MVP campaign and people helping out youth in the community, another thing we really want to let the community know about is Youth Mental Health First Aid, which Gina already kind of mentioned. This is a really great program that teaches adults, so this program is for people 18 and older, on how to pick up on warning signs of mental health and addiction-related concerns, so that if you're in a situation with a youth, you know how to get them connected to someone who can help. Again, as Gina mentioned, this isn't training anyone to be a counselor, but it's really helping the general public to get a sense of what those concerns look like and what the best approach would be to get them to the best kind of help. So with that being said, we do have a free training coming up, which is on November 17th, and there are some flyers up there, and Gina just passed them out too. The flyers are on our social media pages. If you ever want to learn more about it, you can contact me anytime. But it will be 8:30 to 3, so it is a full-day training, and it will be at Dora Burgess. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Also, if you have a group that you would like to do more of a private training for, all we need is 5 people, and we can do a free training for you if you would rather do it with your own group. So, and then our next slide talks about Teen Mental Health First Aid, which Gina already described. So that is another program within the Mental Health First Aid program, again, to help you be able to support their peers in the same way that adults do. And that that concludes our presentation. Again, you all have the flyers, and if you're interested in doing our newsletter, the QR code on the last slide will bring you to that page.
Any additional questions for us? Really, I do appreciate, and Hwrsd, we appreciate that, there are many things to dive into here. So please let us know, and we would be happy to contribute to that deeper dive. There are other voices, I think, that can contribute as well. But we definitely feel, and I'm glad to see that you are picking up on those concerns. Sean, do you want to say anything about mental health first aid? You were both
And Gina took it as well.
and Gina took it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a great course. It's a great course. It really opened my eyes.
That's all.
Really opened my eyes to not only what it starts out with looking at what's going on within yourself too. And that's very important to be aware of where your vulnerabilities are, what your biases are, how you react to sadness, kind of thing. So I thought it was a very useful course. It was a long day. I kind of wish it had been like 2 sessions because there was so much packed into it. But time-wise, all the busy lives. Can I say one more thing before I pass it over to Sean? I had the honor of being on the selection committee for Hwrsd job, and we had, I think it was at the beginning, 3 pages of people to interview, and she was amazing. She was amazing, and a lot of the people on those pages were very good. But we're very lucky to have them.
Yeah, I think the first time I went through first time, Gina, was like 2016, right?
That would make sense.
And we've done it many times. It's interesting to see the program grow and get better each year. It's something I recommend everybody here to attend. I love the idea that it's get a group of 5. So if you have some people in your neighborhood, maybe get those 5 people together. And as a matter of fact, I was making a mental list. Yes, I have 5 people in my neighborhood, so I'll see if I'll talk to you later and see if we can do something like that. That'd be great.
And it can now be done virtually as
Yes.
well as in person. So there are other options. And Cheryl, you have a good point about it is a big bite to do it all in one day, and it can be divided up. Sometimes some people just prefer to have it and get through, and others, and those are all options. And
we can be very flexible with the scheduling and timing of it.
The other thing too is we have 3 boys and Boy Scouts into a lot of just regular first aid training, and it's too bad we can't combine youth mental health and first aid, because I know there's a lot of kids in Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts that do go through first aid training, and that would be a nice adjunct to it. Something.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you, Gina. Thank you, Bree.
So we will continue with the student services update with Gina Barber. Are we officially getting on that? Nope. That's not going to be on the plan. Nope, we're ready to go.
Can we go out of order?
Sure.
So we have possibly start.
It's okay.
I'll do you.
It's actually turns up on now.
Started.
What?
We'll do it again.
There it is.
Great presentation. It's a great presentation.
This was so cute. Oh, wow.
Ask for a break and they say, and it shows someone works.
All righty. That's that. Okay, student service, moving on, student services.
Okay.
Gina,
Okay, so I'm going to follow from what Bree and Gina were talking about. They were talking about youth mental health first aid, so I am going to start my presentation just talking about, starting with social-emotional learning and mental health. So some of the things that I'm going to be talking about is how we're supporting these things. The first thing we're going to discuss is utilizing a proactive socio-emotional learning curriculum. We utilize Second Step and Wonder. Second thing we're going to discuss is assessment and intervention, our assessment tools. Third is additional support staff members that we have available in the district to support socio-emotional learning and mental health. And lastly, our collaboration with outside agencies. So now, next slide. Okay, so this slide I want to focus on what we focus on as a district, and throughout the state. The CASEL it's the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, and there are 5 SEL competencies that are focused on. The first is self-awareness, second is self-management, third is responsible decision-making, fourth is relationship skills, and the fifth is social awareness. So all of these things, all of these social competencies, you choose your socio-emotional curriculum based on their ability to help educate students in all 5 of these realms. So next slide. So we chose Second Step. So we implement Second Step in our K-8 buildings. The Second Step program, it builds upon itself each year. So in kindergarten, you focus on certain skill sets, and each year you're building upon the skill sets that you work on each year, the competencies. So if you go to the next slide. So focus in K-3. The first thing that they focus on is skills for learning, helping students to be prepared to engage in the learning process. They move on to empathy to help students to be able to relate to one another, to understand other students' point of views. We go on to emotion management, where students are able to recognize their own emotions and be able to manage themselves in the classroom setting. And lastly, it's focusing on building friendships and being able to engage in the problem-solving process. All of these things, the hope is that if we help students to be able to develop these skills, that they'll be more able to access the academics in the classroom setting. If you go on to grades 4 and 5, it's continuing to build on the skills from K-3. Empathy and skills for learning are the focus at the beginning of the year for all students. Again, emotion management, and it's just becoming more sophisticated, the tasks that they need to engage in. And lastly is problem solving. That's a huge one, helping students to be able to identify a problem of concern and then brainstorm for solutions. Yeah, so I have COVID and I still have this thing in my throat, so I apologize. Okay, so going on to the middle school. So the middle school, we continue to implement Second Step, and the way we deliver Second Step in the middle school is the PE teacher and the counselor may collaboratively do lessons in Second Step. We have a whole advisory component to Second Step, and in the advisory, they choose the lessons that they feel will be most beneficial for the students at whatever time of year, just based on data, based on team meetings, based on what teachers are saying. And we also do small group interventions. Utilizing Second Step lessons, we utilize the information from our assessments to determine what the skill deficits are for certain students. And then we take the students and we engage in small group sessions to help them to build their skills. Going on to the high school, we do not use Second Step. We use a curriculum called Wonder, and that is implemented in the academic support blocks for special ed students. All of the special ed teachers have accounts on Wonder, and it's really a great forum for teachers to engage in socio-emotional learning. It's all online where they're able to interact with the students utilizing this curriculum. There's a lot of project-based learning, a lot of engaging video content in this curriculum. So next, I want to just go on to assessment. This is how we determine what the needs of the students are in the socio-emotional realm. So we use SABRS for kindergarten through 8th grade. SABRS stands for Social, Academic, and Emotional Behavior Risk Screener. This provides a clear link for us between the 5 CASEL socio-emotional domains and the manifestations of these behaviors in the classroom environment. So what we do is we have the teachers, they fill out a 19-item rating scale that identifies students in grades K to 8 who are at risk for academic, social, or emotional behaviors. And using this information, the counselors are able to determine what small groups are needed to work on different skill sets that they're noticing students may be struggling with. Going on to the next one, we just started last year to utilize the BEST screener. It's the Behavior and Emotional Screener. And last year we started it and we just did it with the entire 10th grade at Minichog. This year they are doing it for the entire school, 9 through 12. And they just administered the screening. So what they do is they administer the screening and they look for trends that are happening in the building, and they also look at individual results. So the students are, the results indicate either if you're red, you're at high risk, yellow would mean medium level risk, and then green means there are no concerns. So the counselors and the staff, Minichog did a really nice job with the administration of BEST fairly recently. I believe it was this past week they administered the BEST. And any student that was identified as being in red was seen that same day. The plan for those who score in yellow is that within a week the counselor will have a meeting and meet with them.
So anybody that's in the green, will they be at least kind of, you always want to make sure you're checking on everybody, not just the ones that may seem immediate?
So based on the green, that if there's not an immediate concern, I mean, the counselors still have contact, the guidance counselors still see students on their caseload.
Okay.
The next one, the additional support staff through ESSER funding. So with COVID, we identified a need for additional support in the socio-emotional realm. We saw a lot more mental health issues. We saw a lot of students engaging in school refusal, where they were out for during COVID, and it was difficult for them to get reacclimated to the school environment. So we, last year, midway through the year, we we hired 4 additional adjustment counselors and 1 additional BCBA through our ESSER funding. And this is going to be supported all the way through June of 2023. So the additional adjustment counselors were supporting the implementation of the program that I described, second step. They were pushing into the classrooms at grades K to 5. At the secondary level, the counselors were just supporting the increased need that was prevalent in both the middle school and the high school. The additional BCBA enabled us to provide more support across the district in the development of behavior intervention plans and provided support to staff to come up with behavioral strategies to utilize in the classroom for kids that were struggling. Next is just our collaboration with mental health agencies. We established a collaboration with MHA, which is the Mental Health Association, for the provision of clinical services for our students during the school day. This clinician from MHA, they contracted with us for 20 hours a week, but recently they became full-time with us. So they are in the district every day, the whole duration of the school day. So the goal is for the clinician to increase her caseload to 24 students. This collaboration enables students who have clinical needs that go beyond what a school counselor normally would be providing. It enables them to get that clinical intervention during the school day and not have to be on a wait list for months for outside agency to get this clinical support. Next, moving on to special education. I'm just going to go over some information by building and disability. I'm going to talk about out-of-district placements, give an update on the transition program, and just give an update on our sub-separate programs. So the first slide is students with disabilities. This kind of breaks down students with disabilities by building. We have a total of 479 students that have disabilities and need specially designed instruction through an IEP in order to access the curriculum and make progress. The next slide just kind of breaks down what the disabilities are. We have them in descending order. So the 3 most prevalent disabilities are specific learning disability, health, which is usually ADHD, and autism. Next gives information about students with accommodations. So these are the students that are identified as having a disability, but they don't need specially designed instruction. Instead, they need accommodations in order to be able to access the curriculum. So in total, we have 154 students right now who are receiving support through accommodations, which are our 504 plans. The next slide just gives you an overview of out-of-district placements. I gave this overview last fall, and currently we have 28 students that are being educated in out-of-district placements. I thought it was important to just cite what the disabilities are that students get placed out of the district. Out of the 28 students, 12 of those students have the disability of autism, 12 of them have an emotional disability, and 3 have a health disability. And there are 10 disability categories, but the majority of our kids have autism or emotional disabilities that get sent out of the district. And it's only, like, we follow the continuum of service delivery, and we do everything we can to maintain them in the district, but when there starts to be a concern about the safety to themselves or to others, we need to go to the most restrictive placement, which is out of district. Next, just an update on the transition program. I know I talked about this a lot in the past, but the program is going very well. We have Tony Zaremba, who is the lead teacher in the program. He does an amazing job of getting the kids into the community, giving them experiences, vocational experiences, social experiences. They have been to various college campuses, and they've done tours. They've hung out in the dining facility. They have engaged in classes. There are 5 students currently that take classes at HCC. And the program prepares these students for further education, employment, and independent living. We did consolidate the program. Last year we had 2 separate classrooms with 2 teachers, and now we have 1 teacher, which is Tony Zaremba, and he supports 12 students in this program. And lastly, just to mention about the transition program, one thing that we're excited about is we're going to be collaborating with the custodial department, and we're going to have an internship program, and 5 of the 12 students are really interested in this program, and they're going to be starting off at TWB, building their skill set, and then we're going to utilize them in other buildings throughout the district. Okay, so specialized programs. This I just want to, we have had some changes in specialized programs, and the most important thing to say about sub-separate programs is that they can change year to year, because we have to develop sub-separate programs that meet the needs of the students in any given year. So we do have 3 programs at Green Meadows, and we call them intensive learning centers. One of them is a newly created program. We had the need for students with multiple disabilities. It's a severe needs program, and we needed to create a program for them where we're focusing on giving them a lot of related services, OT, PT, speech, and providing them opportunities to engage in academic tasks that reinforce what they're doing in the related services, OT, PT, and speech, and then provide opportunities for socialization in the regular classrooms at times where they're going to get the most out of being in that setting. So we continue to have the ILC, which is grades 3 to 5. That program existed last year. We had quite a few students from that classroom go up to the middle school. So those students, we had to create a 3rd classroom in the middle school, which is exactly the same as the one for 3 to 5. And this is a program that helps students who are not able to access in the mainstream classroom. They need a modified curriculum for the majority of their subjects, but we do provide them with inclusion opportunities where they're able to go into classrooms with paraprofessional support and access the curriculum for periods of time. They may go to the beginning of a lesson and then go back to their sub-separate classroom to get modified instruction to be able to access what was being taught in the classroom. So that pretty much summarizes Green Meadows. We have the 3 sub-separate programs there. Mile Tree, we continue to have the intensive resource room, and this is the primary diagnosis of students in that classroom is autism, and this is a classroom that provides discrete trial instruction for our students with autism to help enhance their skill set. We have purchased the ACES program, and it's really a great way for the students to engage in individualized programs, and the program graphs everything for you, and it shows all the progress that they're making in various areas. Students from that program, we have a large number of students in the Mile Tree program. We have 10 students who are accessing discrete trial instruction. They spend at least half of their day in that sub-separate classroom receiving discrete trials, and then with paraprofessional support are able to go into the mainstream classrooms and access academics with the support of an adult. We have the same program when students go from Mile Tree to Stony Hill. This similar program exists at Stony Hill to support them. That program has approximately 5 students in it. So at Wilbraham Middle School, we have the structured learning classroom. And this is a little bit different. This is a program that for students who struggle, they have socio-emotional needs that they struggle to be able to be successful in the general ed classroom. So they get the support of a teacher, they have explicit social skills instruction on a regular basis, and they are gradually released from that classroom to be in the mainstream classrooms with the support of a para. The para engages in coaching and helps to support them, giving them prompts and reminding them of what they're learning in the socio-emotional realm in the classroom. And Minichog, we continued the structured learning classroom from Wilbraham Middle to Minichog. It looks a little bit different at Minichog because of the block schedule. The students are, it feels more like a resource room at Minichog, where the students are able to access the support of the structured learning teacher. They're supported in the classrooms by a paraprofessional, but their home base is always going to be their SLC classroom to get the support that they need from the teacher and or the paraprofessional. And then we have 2 other classes at Minichog that are longstanding. We call them ELT1 and ELT2. It stands for Education, Life Skills, and Transition. And these are students who most likely would have received services earlier from our intensive learning centers. They're students who need a very modified curriculum in order to be able to master content. And that's it.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, I have a question. On the second,
Can you use your
sure, on the second step program for the middle school, could you describe how that's structured for the middle school at Green Meadows?
Well, the second step at the middle school at Green Meadows, it's thank you, though. So at Green Meadows, they get the same instruction. They're using the same curriculum. We purchased an online curriculum, and Green Meadows, the counselors have their own accounts, and they push in and provide the lessons to the middle school students there.
Right, I was just thinking in terms of, like, the 6th grade has very few students, and then there's a handful of 7th grade. Do they go in together, like, as a middle schooler? Because there's so much, what that looks like, you know, kind of conversation and support and friendship making, that kind of thing.
So
I do it with just 2 kids, or...
Yeah, so I don't know the answer to that question about the 6th grade, but I do know that they are providing the second step lessons to the entire middle school. So I'm not sure what form that takes for the 6th grade class, just because it is such a small group. But I'm guessing that they provide social opportunities for them, just like they do for the other kids.
Aaron, this may be more for you.
Can I use
Aaron, this may be more for you. So I see the 4 positions that are funded through ESSER that you have. How many total positions do we have funded in the district through ESSER, and what's the total dollar amount for that?
Those 5, it's 4 counselors plus a BCBA right now. That is the extent. I think we originally had 6, correct? We're down to 5 now. I put aside about 300-some thousand for that.
So that's total positions across the district. We just have the 5 and it's 300,000, not just in student services.
So in turn,
total district-wise, it's just 5 positions and 300,000.
those are 5 specific positions we've added. We've added after-school programs, so different schools have had after-school programs using existing staff. So we haven't necessarily added a teacher. We've added hours for existing staff to do after-school work with students. I know, for example, the high school has added support at the library for after-school times. Each school actually had some flexibility to do things as they needed.
Okay.
So that was, you know, we do still have funds. Some of the intent was to deal with the social emotional first. We do have funds that are available for some interventions work. We did attempt to do summer programs for the past 2 summers, I believe, and we did not have enough staff interest to do summer programs. So
we don't
barely have the staff to do a regular special education program.
Okay, so if we don't add the funding in future years, we lose the
Yes,
essentially.
yes, those are additional positions beyond
So
our
$300,000,
normal.
when you think about it, you look at budgets, you use $300,000 in 5, and I think that, if I'm not mistaken, we added social emotional support 4 years ago, and then pulled it the very next year. So if we're saying it's important, that it's in there, because we can't pay for it without doing something in our budget.
Yep.
I have a question. So on your specialized programs,
Yep.
I don't see anything here for School Road.
School Road does not have a specialized program,
All right, and
but they probably will next year.
so Sioux Road has, just for 4th and 5th grades, they have 310 students.
Right.
And Green Meadows for 4th and 5th grade has, let me see, 40. So 83, 82, 83?
So Sean, the reason that we do it at Green Meadows is because of the grade band, and it allows us to do a 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade program. I wouldn't be able to have a 3rd through 5th grade program at Sewell Road because the 3rd graders wouldn't have access to their neurotypical peers to be able to push into those classrooms. So Green Meadows, it does make it easier to do sub-separate programs. From Stony Hill, we only had one student from the sub-separate program over there that needed services. So you can't make a program of one, so that, like, when a student needs that specialized programming, you send them to whatever school has that sub-separate program. But next year, there are a large number of kids from Stony that will need the support of a sub-separate. So most likely, that's why I said it's fluid with sub-separate programs. We probably will need a program at Sewell, which will enable us to keep Wolverham kids in Wolverham. So.
Because if you remember in the past, when Heather was on the school committee with us, she and I asked how many kids were being sent to Green Meadows for programming, and we were never actually given a number of how many students from Wolverham. Not that it mattered, but it was an idea to understand why are there programs that are required but not offered on the Wolverham side. And I think that this is the reaction, because of that ask a few years ago. I think this is what you're seeing now as it's being offered. Thank you. Sorry.
It would also be, I'll just say, if there was just one child and they went to Sewell, it would be isolating for them too. So it would be better for them to be with peers as well and have a group of children as opposed to just one.
Right, because typically you should have three students to justify the creation of a separate program, minimally 3.
Anything else?
Thank you very much. Oh, you feel that?
Thank you.
That's the worst in this dress up.
All right, so we will continue with old business, the school committee goals. So we began a discussion, I believe, on September 1st, that we tabled until after we were able to review and vote on the strategic plan, so we are coming back to the goals. So I know that based on the conversations that we had on the communication goal, I know that 2 of the comments that were made were to support in the creation and implementation of the website, and then just to continue to improve and expand communication in the wider community by using remote meeting technology. It's the second bullet under number 1. Do you want to go through one by one and go over, or just kind of do a highlight of what was discussed last time?
Can we go over like what we've changed? We've had a discussion before.
Yeah. So the change, I think some people are looking to minimize it and kind of make a combination of the communication goal and the technology goal. I know the technology committee does have a meeting coming up scheduled, but it was just to support, create and support the implementation of the website, the district website, and continue to provide access for community members, stakeholders, families.
Michelle, we went through a few of these previously.
Yes.
But I don't see any of the changes.
None of the changes are on there.
Yes.
No, so that's,
No.
Can we get them with the changes so that we save that?
Yes.
it seems to be I think the part where I think we're missing, because we talk about this stuff, but it's like, okay, so who's actually writing down the change and keeping the changes? In the past, we had Keith that did that, but we don't have that now. We just have someone that keeps the minutes, but we don't have someone that actually takes the actual document. We didn't have it in a Word document, even though I think at the last meeting I had asked for it. Because I was gonna amend it based on the changes that we had talked about.
Did we eliminated the negotiation form already?
Nothing was changed.
I know, but I'm saying we have.
I'm trying to find all my notes, I'm sorry.
Said we would get rid of that.
So if you want to go communication, the big one I see is that number 2, Roman numeral 2, doesn't make any sense with the objectives for goal attainment.
I think we had discussed wrapping Roman numeral 2, I think, in its entirety.
Perfect.
All right.
Where's that one?
The bottom of
Can we,
page.
oh, so we're editing this all right now?
I'm like, kind of already did it, so I'm just going over.
So do we have a version in Excel that we can,
So that's what we had asked for at the last meeting,
So I
Erin?
have a version, I have a Word document, but if someone.
but she can't take, can I write a Word document? Can I write it here?
Yep, let me.
Erin, do you have this in a Word document, the school committee goals?
Yes.
We want to edit it now, if we could?
I'm working on that, Michelle.
Oh,
Michelle just said she had it. So we
Oh.
asked for it, she just got it from Erin.
oh, okay. Sorry.
So this needs to be something, I think, that, again, it kind of comes down to, like, how do we as a body make these changes happen?
Do we want to just have somebody take this as an assignment, do it from what they think they've heard? And then
Sure,
next
well, let's
week?
go through it and I'll mark it up and we'll do that. Do we mind going through it? Or, I mean, I can go through the notes from 2 meetings ago and then bring it back to the committee as a draft and you guys can take a look.
I think to me, I feel like we've gone through this 3 times.
I know.
So this is not the greatest use of time. So if we can just incorporate that,
Okay.
bring that.
Sorry about that. Okay.
I'm happy to do it. I don't know if you're handwriting to read, but happy to if you don't want to.
I was gonna take the notes from the original one we had, and put it in the Word document, and send out the draft.
No, I'm saying I'm happy to do it for you if you want.
Oh, and no, I mean, I already have the written one, not on, when we did one of these before.
I'm
I
gonna
just
do it
can't
real
find
time.
it.
So,
You should be doing it.
I'm
No, I just wanted to not do something.
okay, so for the communication goal. My takeaway, so when I, with notes that I had, go ahead.
No, I thought we just said that we were not going to go.
Oh, we're
through
not,
it right
okay,
now.
got it.
Laura was just going to incorporate
The
if
changes
that
from the
works for
last
everybody.
conversation.
Got it.
And then if there's a question, once it's all,
And something needs to be changed, I'll bring it electronically, we'll make it that night, we'll vote it as amended that evening, the next meeting.
Right. Or if any tweaks were made,
Yeah.
we can bring it up then.
All right. you have it right now.
Yes, yes. I just have to.
That's right. All right, so we continue. So we're going to move on to new business, the school committee, school visits update. So we had school committee members that went on a site visit to Wolverhampton Middle and to Green Meadows Middle School. So Cheryl or Sean?
Yes. Thank you. I was very impressed with both middle schools. I thought the enthusiasm and the energy, that even children with very few kids in the class was palpable. They were engaged in their learning. There were for, I think it was it the 6th grade? No, it was the 7th grade class. The teacher there was amazing. She was really amazing, and had the kids in different centers and things, but she had children working on difficult problems side by side at the kidney table, in which she also was working on a difficult problem. And they could stop her and ask her questions, and she would continue. And next to that, there were groups of children who were working on aspects of the lesson, including doing it in a game function. So I was very impressed with that. Do you want to speak to Green Meadows, or do you want to go to?
Sure. So it was very different, the two schools. We came in the morning, and we attended. There were 2 sessions where children were taking exams, and how one of the teachers presented the whole, how it feels, how it sounds, what is it? Yeah, whatever. It was amazing how interactive.
A splash on the board.
Yeah, just splashes. People came up and put the note and talked about it. Some discussion, like, don't get yourself all worked up. Don't stress out about it. This is this is a reason why we're doing this. It was just really just great. I never experienced any of that in education. I think that's just social emotional with a big thumbs up next to it. Then we went to another class. They were already in the midst of taking that exam. The teacher was helping out. We didn't get to see much there. And then we went to 2 math classes. This is all again at Wilbraham Middle School. And we went from one class to another where it was, I don't know, 25 students to one teacher. I think there was a para helping there as well in both classes. And it was a lot. There was a lot going on. The teachers were doing a great job, but well, we were talking about this, Cheryl, right? It's like teaching the idea versus teaching a formula.
Right. The class was challenging in using a number line and using it to find your answer from going from positive to the negative on the number line. And I don't know exactly where in her lesson where she was, whether this was a beginning lesson, a middle lesson, or an ending lesson. I think it was a middle lesson, and there were enough kids that were struggling with it that she needed to give them just kind of techniques as opposed to really thinking through the math. Put your hand on your finger on the positive and count backwards to the negatives 6 times, and you'll find your answer, kind of thing, as opposed to what actually happens when you go into negative numbers versus positive numbers. And I could understand why she was doing that, because there were a lot of kids and a lot of kids struggling with understanding it. So I would assume it was a beginning part of a lesson and needed more practice.
Oh yeah. So the teachers were great. I mean, the teachers they were going with the students that needed to help. Other students were helping other students. It was wonderful. They were asking me questions. We were talking. It was great. Then we went, but I was thinking at the time, like, this is a lot. Like, for something like this, you really need to break it down. Maybe there were maybe too many kids in the class. It just seemed like that the teachers they were doing great work. Don't get me wrong, but it was a struggle for everybody. But then we went over to Green Meadows, and there was a room, there was a teacher, and they had 9 students. I think the first one had 8 students or something like that, and then there were 9 students that came in. We were there for 2 classes of the same. And the teacher divided, 3 people would work with her at the table, and she would put problems out, and then they would be talking with each other and talking with the teacher and explaining really to understand what was going on in the math in front of them. And then other students were participating with a game and how the math can come from the game. And the other 3 students were on the computer doing some stuff. And they would rotate. And she had her alarm on her phone. She would, okay, rotate, and we were just watching this, and it was just, it was really, really great. And then we went to another class after that, and there were 3 students in the class, and there were 3 teachers in the class. And I kind of, I mean, we didn't see every class. We only saw, you know, those, the 2 math and that other one afterwards. And I would just, it was like, I want to take what we have at Green Meadows, and I want to bring it to Wilbraham. You know, I want that kind of, where certain classrooms and certain classes can be really small so you can get that one-on-one with the teacher. The beautiful thing about Wilbraham Middle School is because you have such a big population, you can have the teams, and there's so many other projects, and there's so many other things that you can do. But it was really, there was some magic in that teacher and dividing the groups up and having it smaller groups and really being able to work with those kids. That frankly, I had a discussion with my wife about us sending our son over to, asking him to maybe go over to Green Meadows. But we decided not to because of the other piece, of the social, emotional piece, of the having a lot of kids around and the things that you can do with a lot of kids. So, but it was a discussion that we had in the Kennedy household. It was eye-opening, and I'm still processing it, you know, to this day. So if I'm not making myself totally clear, like I said, I'm still working through it. Anything else you'd like to add? Or Michelle is there as well.
You guys covered it.
Well,
I was happy to visit the schools and see what was happening with the various classrooms and, you know, kind of see it from a student's perspective. So I appreciate all of the coordination that happened and allowing us to spend time in their classes.
I just have 2 more things to say. One was I talked with the students at Green Meadows in the class of 9, and all of them loved being at Green Meadows. All of them were happy in their class, and all of them loved math. It was really, really eye-opening. And I think, you know, there was ownership in that small classroom, whether it is the size helps when it's smaller. But the other thing that I was impressed with is something that Mrs. Curtin has been stressing, is getting the teachers on the same page. And when we were at the middle school, going between the 2 classrooms that were doing the test and having them prepare for taking the test, and their messages on the board, and having them know what was available in terms of math manipulatives to use. That was very impressive. Both classrooms obviously had stayed together on the same topic, covered the same material, and the kids were accessing it pretty easily.
Do those math teachers ever get an opportunity to go in each other's classrooms and observe each other?
So you're looking at me and assuming that you posed me.
Anyway.
Well, I'll say that's another part of the story of that day. It's part of the conversation that came up when we were at Green Meadows. We got into a conversation about that. And one of the challenges the principal talked about is having Green Meadows on an elementary schedule and having a middle school on a secondary schedule really prevents the opportunity for teachers from the 2 middle schools to collaborate with each other. We didn't speak as much about opportunities for teachers at the middle school to collaborate with each other. They wouldn't have that same kind of structural impediment. So I would kick it over to Ms. Curtin to see if she knows the answer to that.
teachers observing teachers is something that we are encouraging and trying to build into all of the work that we're doing throughout both curriculum rollouts and actually through our new teacher mentor programming. So really helping teachers be reminded of the benefits, even though they do already know the benefits, but when you get working in your day, it's hard to make time. So it's really encouraging the principals to provide that release time and structure it within the professional development if we can do that, or coming from the middle school team meetings and generating from their ideas. Like I really like, I'm going to be teaching this next. Can I go in and watch? Or can I see what 6th grade teaching this concept looks like? I'm a 7th grade math teacher and I wanted, so creating those horizontal and vertical alignments. So we're right at the beginning stages of trying to incorporate that into all the professional learning at the different levels that we're doing. So it's an important part of being able to see somebody else do it, ask questions, give feedback, get feedback. So we're getting there.
I was pretty amazed at both schools with all the classes that we went into, at how strongly connected the teachers are beyond a teacher. Like their personal investment, their personal involvement in the students, knowing, oh, I know what this student needs, I know what this student needs, and it was just so great. It was just, I've always had, in my education, I've been very lucky. I've had amazing teachers. And I'm seeing across the board here what I thought was amazing back when I was a kid. So that true, deep connection with your teachers, it's so evident in our district. That was probably the best thing that I got out of the whole visit.
I think that's a sign that the people that we have in our district are passionate about what they do, because when you love what you do, you can see that they love it. That's the passion of it.
Yeah.
I do like Sean's new ratio of 9 to 1.
I do too. I think everybody does.
Save some of those ESSER funds.
I was kidding.
For certain classes, let's make it happen. With math, math can be tricky. How do you subtract a negative? What does that mean? It was funny. As soon as I walked in the class, I was like, oh, make it a positive. Not knowing like how to think it, right? But then I was sitting there, and at the end of the day, I got better at math because I learned how to subtract a negative, like actually, rather than just using some cheats that I had from when I was a kid. So it was that was great. But that would be something that I would challenge you, John, to say, okay, in certain instances, let's all right. We're suffering here in math, and maybe let's just put some more resources there and, think outside the box. I said this to Al 6 years ago when I started on the committee. I said, what is education going to look like in 5 years and in 10 years and in 15 years and in 20 years? Because I look the other way, and it's been the same way, roughly, with certain changes, granted, but we've been doing a lot of the same things. What kind of educationally sound things can we implement in our district? With we learned during COVID, right, where we had all these students on the computers, and there were some benefits and some damage done at the same time. But can we cull the benefits and take that and incorporate that into what we're doing, so we can really just be ahead of the curve and take education to the next level in this district?
Can I just share, since you put that out there, it is triggering something that I've observed in my days as a student here. As I've said, we're still in the shadow of COVID, so I've had some classes taught by subs. In fact, I had one day where I think I had 2 or 3 classes taught by subs because teachers were sick. But one of the things that I noticed that I think is an example of something that we'll take away from COVID as a benefit and new techniques that we learned is that in almost every class taught by a sub, the teacher had left a video giving the instruction for the day. So it really, I think, elevates what you can get out of a class taught by a sub. So I think that's an example of what you're talking about. I can't tell you that I know what education is going to look like in 25 years. My fear is that it's going to be a lot like it is now, you know, that schools are very resistant to change and historically have proven to be so. But I think just that small example shows that we have carried some of the positive lessons of COVID forward.
Excellent, thank you.
Do we have anyone signed up for public comment? Nope. So we move on to the subcommittee updates. Curriculum subcommittee, Cheryl, do you have an update this week? Okay. Finance and operations subcommittee. You have a meeting scheduled for, I think it's November 7th at 5?
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. In the district conference room. So the LPVAC collaborative representative, Lisa?
Yeah. All right, so because of the thefts happening with the buses, a security company has been hired to watch the buses. And just sharing some things that I thought was great for the collaborative was they were awarded $110,000 to purchase new machinery for their advanced manufacturing program. And the students that were interested in advertising and branding had fundraised enough to visit New York City to do an industry visit and learn about high-end advertising and branding. So I thought that was really awesome.
Thank you. I do not have anything to report on the LPVAC Corporation representative, nor do I have anything to report on the negotiation subcommittee. So we'll move on to policy subcommittee. Maura?
So we had a meeting today, but I will talk about that at the next meeting. For today, we're going to just go through the second reading of the policies ACA and ACAB. If you will take a look, so that the next school committee meeting we have, we will then vote to accept those policies into our policy manual.
They haven't changed from the week before, correct?
That is correct. Sorry to read any of that. I don't believe any changes were made at the last meeting. So. Other than the color's gone, Sean, that's probably maybe the difference. Sorry about that.
That's all right, that's all right.
Any questions? Okay. I'm all set.
Okay, thank you. So we will move on to the superintendent update.
Thank you. It's only been a week since my last report, so I only have a few updates tonight. I continue to implement my entry plan, meeting with the Wilbraham Park and Rec Director and shadowing a 10th grader this week. Although I had driven past the post office park area on Route 20 many times in my life before coming to work in this district, it was meeting with the Park and Rec Director was the first time I had any reason to venture back there. Of course, I got lost trying to find the rec department. She is very well hidden back there. But that gave me an opportunity to see some amazing facilities, both town and private facilities, including the Scantic YMCA, Gymnastic and Dance Academy, and several, what appeared to me, near professional quality fields. As was the case with my discussions with the Hampton Rec Department, our conversation focused on working collaboratively through facility use process mainly to expand sports opportunities for students beyond the district athletic programs. And as I was driving home last night, I saw hundreds of students on the soccer fields by the middle school. I joked with someone that I don't think I've ever worked in a district with a greater per capita square footage of playing area. At the same time, two people independently came up to me over the course of the last week, commenting that with the cold weather coming on, we could really use some more gymnasium space in our communities. So it's clear to me that athletics are highly valued, not only by the district, but also by the communities it serves. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Dave Rogers, Mike Messier, and Steve Burnett, and all the fall coaches for their stewardship of our athletic facilities. I'll tell you that balancing the needs to rest fields and hold practices and games can be tricky. I believe this is the first fall sports season I've been through as a superintendent anywhere where I didn't have to mediate a dispute between grounds and the athletic coaches. But our staff here are really working together to make sure that everyone gets what they need, including the leaves of grass that need a few days off now and then. With respect to the strategic plan, I can report that the district website review team has been formed. I think on the memo you received a copy of, Bree had been left off of that, so I want to correct that. When I saw the website that she had created for the Prevention Coalition, I knew that she had to be a member of the team, and she graciously accepted my invitation. And I can also report that the DEI team will be meeting tomorrow to begin the process of speccing out our priorities for the equity audit, which we hope to get out to vendors shortly. That's my report.
Do we have any movement on the that committee that we're working with Hamden, Wilbraham, for the deciding what we're doing with the buildings?
I have not heard back from the towns on that.
Maybe we reach out again because it's been a couple weeks, I think, and maybe.
It's been a week, but I'll be happy to do that.
All right.
And we had a town meeting on Monday, so I'm sure they were getting prepared for that. Not to say that this isn't an important topic, but you know how the large-scale meeting preparation can be. I will also just ding in a polite way, John, to make sure you saw it and got it.
Excellent, thank you.
All right, any questions? Other questions? Gina, is there a TWB, there's a sign outside, is there a concert or?
We have a sign for a food drive.
Food drive, is it a food drive? Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah.
And that's the PTA one, right?
Well,
No, the school is so they're collecting food in the lobby as well at Green Meadows for the food pantry.
No, we're not going to TWT.
TWB is a separate food drive.
There's something else. Anyway.
The transition kids are doing.
Oh, a lot of people participate in it too. So, I mean, in like communities when they drive by.
Our next meeting is Thursday, November 17th. It's at 6:30, but the public is invited at 6:10 to the middle school to watch the band performance and see a display of student artwork. So again, that will begin at 6:10 on Thursday, November 17th at Wilbraham Middle School. Does anyone have any additional items or future agenda items?
When will the MCAS update/action items occur?
Next meeting.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. We will do a roll call vote. Cheryl? Sean?
Aye.
Patrick?